All right, I'm Chris Avina with American Outdoor News, and today we have somebody who I've been friends with for a number of years, Bruce Hutcheon. Bruce, you've been around the industry for so long. You've had a podcast, you had a new podcast, and now you have Hutch on Hunting.
Yeah, it's really exciting how this whole thing came together. Back in 2015, I started myself and my partner Bob Rourke started Whitetail Rendezvous, and that was going really well. We ended up having over 500,000 downloads on whitetails, over 600 interviews with people, and unfortunately, the timing just wasn't right for us to merchandise it or monetize it. Pardon me. And so after so many years, about 2019, 2020, I just said, Bob, I can't do this anymore. I've got other things, fish to fry and places to go, and I can't put the time and effort into it. And if anybody wants to hear some great whitetail information, Larry Wussine, Jim Shockey, Boddington, I mean, you just go down a list. I had a list, and then I had people like Chris and I that go out and hunt whitetails. And actually, those are my best interviews when I was just talking to, Smokey Johnson from North Dakota, and he would say, Bruce, this is what I do. This is how I do it. This is why I do it. This is when I do it. And you get so much good information. And that's what we shared for so many years. So fast forward, after that ended, I had a guy reach out to me, John O'Brien, and he said, hey, Bruce, would you host a podcast for me? That was Let's Talk Deer. And John O'Brien's in Wisconsin, got a great seed company going. And that went on for about a year. He didn't get the return he thought he was going to get on it. So that went. In the meantime, I've been hunting all over the United States, and actually, as a filler here, I started and killed my first whitetail in Wisconsin in 1966, and I still hunt that same farm.
Wow, I was 3 years old at that time.
Yeah, and so
long time.
I'm not going to throw out numbers. I got one high time buck from the farm. It's a 100-year Wisconsin farm. We've taken one 180, one Boone and Crockett off the farm. There are other Boone and Crockett bucks on the farm, but as you know, getting a Boone and Crockett buck where there's a number of cousins, people hunting it, we have, for a 400-acre farm, we have a lot of pressure. And so they're smart. So having said that, I've hunted and written about hunts all over North America. And I think, you published one of my articles way back when.
A few of them. We've published a bunch of articles.
Yeah. And so, folks, I'm not new to this. It's all building up to why Hutch on Hunting. Very simple. I was on a number of forums, and when I wasn't doing the podcast, I'd write just articles, forums, say, hey, Unit 49. And folks, I love Unit 49. The locals are going to hate me, but Unit 49 has 350 bulls in Colorado.
Well, let's take a step back. You live in Colorado, Colorado. You know where to hunt, what units are good, which produce the biggest bulls. So this is where your expertise really lies.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And I'm thankful. I'll give a shout out for Go Hunt here. I'm thankful when Chris Porter and Lorenzo started Go Hunt. A friend of mine, Rich Rocco, called me up, said, hey, Bruce, you live in Colorado. Colorado. Would you write some articles for us on big game unit profiles? And I ended up writing over 200 on deer, elk, antelope, sheep, goats, and moose. Wow. So that's where I put my credibility to anybody listening to this, they may say, well, you don't know this. I know probably as much as anybody else knows in Colorado about the total Colorado. Now, if you're from Gunnison, you know your honey holes, you know Gunnison better than I do. But I've taken two bucks back to back, an antelope buck and a mule deer buck that are just shy of Boone and Crockett, both of them.
So basically, if you live in Colorado, you know where you're going.
You should.
Hutch on hunting really is a service for people that do not live locally that are looking for prime hunting areas.
Right. Or I had a guy call me last year. He said, Bruce, I saw your post on a forum. Could you help me? I've got 3 days to hunt. I'm taking my master's up in Denver. I'm at post and I got 3 days to hunt. And I said, okay, I need an hour and a half of your time. And do you have a computer? Yes. Do you have Onyx? Yes. Okay. So I sat with him and I put him on where he sent me a picture via phone scope of a shooter buck and then a smaller buck. That was in 3 days. And I put him right where he needed to go. Will that happen every time? No. But I knew the area. I said, here's what you look for. And here's where you have to be at sunup and sundown. And they're going to be there.
Well, anybody that's gone on guided hunts knows that's not guaranteed either. You know,
no.
How many times have you gone on a guided hunt and come up empty?
Yeah, I hold up, let's have a beer, or wish you were here, but it doesn't happen. I flew to Revelstoke on a multi-day, multi-species hunt, and I left after 5 days. I left, and I left the money on the table. They said, we're not going to refund. I said, I never asked for a refund. You just, my time's more valuable than bouncing around, these mountains looking for something that isn't here.
Yeah.
Things just weren't good. And folks, if you're listening to this, hiring a guide is one of the smartest things you can do if you want to put a hunt together that you would spend years in trying to do that. Guides and outfitters own their territories. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Land leases and property that they own that they know inside and out.
Right. Or they lease it. They've been there. I just talked to a guy, Bill Perry up in Wyoming, and he's been buying the Trident Plateau and Open Creek, which I've hunted up both. And I said, Bill, and we went down memory lane because he has been in Powell, Wyoming for this longest time, and he's outlasted all these other outfitters. But they know where to go. It costs you $1. But there's so many DIY hunters, and why Colorado's so important is we offer more DIY, do-it-yourself tags, over-the-counter tags for elk hunters, not for deer, but for your elk hunters.
Mm-hmm.
And
so Hutch on Hunting, in essence, to put it in a nutshell, is a DYI advisory service.
No question about it. I'm a resource.
Mm-hmm. So if I'm in New York and
right.
I want to do a DYI hunt in Colorado, I wouldn't know the first place to start. So
you might, because there's some good companies out there. I'm not going to give them a shout out, but there's some good companies that give you the information, give you the draw rates, give you everything you need to know, but you still have to get on your Onyx maps. You still have to get on, and I still use topo maps, and on these maps to say, okay, where do I need to go? Where's the trailhead? How far away from the trailhead do I get? All those type of questions. I can tell you that inside of an hour. And if you're, I have 3 levels. I have a scout that gives you an hour. I have a guy package that gives you 2 hours, and an outfitter package that gives you 3 hours and 3 species. So in that amount of time, I will get you the roads, the water holes, where they're feeding, where they're bedding, without a guarantee, because a lot of people hunt Colorado.
Hunting is
No question about it.
Unless you go into a high fence operation, nothing's got.
That's the only guarantee. That's the only guarantee you're ever going to get.
All right, so I'm gonna hunt Colorado. I call you, I say, Bruce, I'm looking to get a nice elk. Don't have to be Boone and Crockett. I want to put meat in my freezer. Where would you send me? Where's the best place for me to hunt?
And hopefully you found me on hutchonhunting.com. That's where you found me.
So
or on social media at Hutch and Hunting on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn and Instagram. You know, I'm all over the place. So you find me. And so you say, hey, I want to buy an hour of your time. And I said, okay, Chris, an hour of time gives you, one species, one unit. And so I said, okay, Chris, have you ever hunted out west before? And we go through an input, because I want to know, can you climb up to 10,000 feet? I have a beautiful blind that's been for 50 years. I didn't build it, but every time I go up there, I put another log on it. And all you have to do during any rifle season is get up there before sunlight and sit there to sundown 5 days, and you will see an elk. I'm not going to say you're going to shoot them because I'm not there, but you will see an elk, guaranteed. It's on a beautiful saddle.
So I'll call you. You'll spend an hour of your time and my time together. You're going to put together a series of questions and basically build a profile of my skill set, my physical attributes, and my abilities, and where would be the best place for me to hunt to get the most out of my time.
Your experience with the weapon. Are you using a crossbow? Are you using a compound? Using a muzzleloader? Or are you using a rifle? That all takes place, because all those, you want to be in a different setup. Sure. I know guys, more and more guys, all they're doing is hang-ons over wallows, and they're killing bucks, just like a whitetail coming into a food plot.
Yep.
Except they're coming into a wallow. And that's a nice hunt, because you don't have to be there so early in the morning. You hunt from about 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Then you can split off, and you actually can have 2 hunts during the day, because then in the evening you go into where they're feeding.
Okay. So areas. Colorado's pretty big. How do you narrow it down?
Pardon me?
How would you narrow down the right areas for a potential client?
Where they live. Do they live out in California? Do they live out east? There's a lot of good hunting on the Front Range. Access. Do they have 4-wheel drives? Do they have ATVs? Do they have UTVs? What kind of vehicles? Are they on foot only? If you're going to go in the wilderness, if you're tough enough to get in the wilderness, then that's a completely different hunt. I mean, so I need a lot of information for you, and I have to find out how tough you are.
Okay, well,
really mentally tough.
Okay, what do you think I would do if I came to you and said, Bruce, I want to do a hunt? Where would you put me? How would you rate me? And what would be the best situation for me?
Knowing who you are and your years of hunting. And I'd ask, here's another question we asked, right? How many points do you have? If you haven't, none. And most people say, well, I haven't put in for points, but that's also a consideration. How many points? What are you really looking for? Then we're going to build a plan that's going to get you to an X unit, the limited draw unit, that's going to meet your abilities. If it's just DIY, then I'm going to say, okay, here's the specific. You can go north of 70. I can get you in the 20, 25, 26, 131 along the Colorado River. I hunted the Colorado River both sides of it for a long time. I have one place that I just absolutely love. I took my grandson up and we had a fox in camp bouncing against our tent. It was a riot. And then the moose came by in the morning and we had during the night, we had an elk bugling right outside our tent. I mean, that's real.
You
And
see
so
that?
that's an easy hunt. That's not a hard hunt. That's, 10,000 feet to 8,000 feet.
Well, I think what a lot of non-hunters don't understand is that's the best part of hunting. Yeah, not just sitting and waiting for what you're hunting, but everything else that comes along. You see fox, you see moose, you see deer, you see all kinds of species roaming through the forest, and you get to see them in their natural habitat. You have a camera, pull it out, take some pictures.
Yeah. And when I was up by the saddle, I'm sitting there and I wasn't in the blind. I was above the blind because just the setup and the way wind was going. So I'm just sitting there kind of looking this and I'm in a downfall, just logs all over me. So nobody's going to see me. And I got my pistol with me because there's a lot of bears in there. Anyway, and so all of a sudden I just knowed something staring me down. And so I don't move. I just move my eyes. And there was an immature bull moose 10 yards away. I mean, I'm going, holy fright. I mean, that's exciting to me.
Yeah, and
That's flat out exciting to me.
It's amazing how some of these big animals move through the woods and you don't hear them.
No?
They just appear in front of you. Like bears, you don't hear. You look to your right and all of a sudden they're there.
Yeah, it was an amazing thing. So I started glunking at him and he's looking at me going, what the heck? Because you can't smell me. He's looking and he makes that, 180. He gets around me and then he figures out that I'm not a cow, But, that's the exciting thing about hunting. Yes, it's important. I understand it. You want to get that rack. You want to put it on the truck. You want to have field the plate, the wonderful organic food that we have. But hunting is so much more than that. Sitting around the campfire with your buddies, enjoying your beverage of the day, and just talking about things of life and the excitement and calling in cats. I mean, I can go on and on and on, with my story. I've been at this game a long time, but I was just at a friend's house and I said, Bruce, tell us a story. Hour and a half later, they're still sitting there. He said, you got to write a book. You got to write a book. I said, nah, I don't think so. Because they're mine and I like to share them with people. But as Chris said, it's the whole adventure. If you sit down with Jim Shockey and talk about it, yeah, he'll talk about his hunts and stuff, but he'll talk about the places and the people and hand the man his museum, that the artifacts that he's collected around the world that represent human beings in completely different environments. And it's a beautiful thing.
Sure. You pull something from every adventure. It's all a learning experience. Even the most experienced hunters are going to learn something from every hunt they go on.
Yeah. And I collect rocks and I paint them and I put a date and time and place. That's some of my best trophies. Yeah, I got a few trophies on the wall, but some of my trophies that are in my office, I just look up and say, man, that was a tough hunt. I got my butt kicked on that one.
Well, people might wonder why you get the heads mounted, the taxidermy and whatnot. Every piece of taxidermy is a memory.
That's when I sit down and look at George or Bill. Bill's a mountain goat from British Columbia. I just said, holy frick. We had the horseback ride. We had to climb mountains. We had to do this. We had to do that. I had to make a hell of a shot, to get him down. Then I had to go down. He rolled into a chute. Then we had to go down the chute and get him. And that's dicey. If you've never done that, folks, you better have your stuff together. Because if you go down a chute that doesn't end till it hits the Fraser River, it's like Oh, it's Parker power. But I
Yeah,
did it.
that's great. Well, you got a lot of experience, and it's great that you're able to share it with people and younger people coming up in the ranks that are looking to learn and get outdoors and you know, do these hunts that you have so much experience with.
Yeah. And folks, Hutch hunting, yes, it costs money, but so does a tank of gas, so does a fuel. I think Colorado's tags for elk now are $700, 600, $700. I haven't looked at the regs coming out. The reg period is open from March 1st to April 4th, and get a hold of me. I still have some room in the calendar, so I can do a one-on-one with you prior to April 4th. So you'd say, okay, based on what I've read, based on what Bruce said, here's what I'm going to put in for limited tags, because I'm a Garth Carter believer. Apply. Even though you're doing DIY hunts, okay, there's great, fantastic opportunities here that you can do yourself, DIY, but you need the limited tag. I mean, we're talking Boone and Crockett available game.
Sure.
And it's not as crowded. The limited tag is not as crowded as a DIY over-the-counter tag.
All right, well, we are running out of time here. We could find you at hutchonhunting.com.
Yes.
We could find you on Facebook, Instagram,
Twitter,
YouTube,
and LinkedIn. Hutch on Hunting.
Hutch on Hunting. This episode has been sponsored by Pyro Putty, Underwood Ammo, and Hunt of a Lifetime. We're going to hear something in our closeout from Hunt of a Lifetime as well. But don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Don't forget to go to Hutch on Hunting, and we appreciate your time here.
Chris, thanks so much. You've been a good friend for so many years, and you always support me well. And I thank you, sir.
Friends help friends.
We love our children. We protect them. We guide them. We prepare them for life in the world. With all that we do, from deep in our hearts, we cannot control all things. Life-threatening illnesses and disabilities affect far too many of our children each year. While we cannot change the circumstance, we can make dreams come true. Dreams to provide hope, to provide spiritual healing and strength, to provide moments of happiness and relief in the hardest of times. We can give a glimmer of light and hope in a time of darkness and despair. Join huntofalifetime.org to help make dreams come true, to provide hope for children with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Hunt of a Lifetime is a non-profit organization fulfilling dreams for hunting and fishing trips to youth 21 and under with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Visit huntofalifetime.org to learn how you can make a difference.